Greetings everybody, welcome back to episode number 3 of this RabbitMQ course. In this episode we are going to talk about work queues, right? And how to distribute messages, among different consumers. So we will see an implementation and we are going to see what are some of the use cases for this pattern. So if you remember, so far we have talked about a simple one-to-one, scenarios where one producer produces a message, one consumer fetches that message and consumes it. Then we talked about publisher subscribe or publish subscribe, where we, send a message to a fan out exchange, and that exchange sends a copy of that message to more than one consumer using the queue that is bind to the exchange. Now we want to talk about work queues, also known as task queues, right? So these are used when you want to distribute time-consuming tasks among multiple workers. So the idea is very simple. Whenever you have more than one time-consuming task, you are going to distribute those tasks between more than one worker or background processor or process. For example, suppose you have an e-commerce web application which is receiving some events or some messages whenever, let's say, a user places an order. And whenever you receive a message, you need to process that message, and you have more than one background process running. So you are going to assign one message to each, process or processor. And those processors are going to take care of processing that message that you assign to them. So this is the basic idea behind work queues. So work queues are particularly useful in web applications if, for example, a user uploads, for example, an image that needs to be resized. So you wouldn't want to make the user wait for the resizing to complete during that HTTP request. Instead, the image processing task can be enqueued, and a separate worker application can handle the resizing in the background. And if you have multiple workers or processors, they can process the tasks in parallel. So each one can fetch one task and process that task. And this of course improves the throughput and the responsiveness of your application. Now, what we are going to do is we are going to take one simple example using our order processor, analogy. Of course, we are going to continue working with producer app and consumer app. We're going to call the producer app or think of the producer app as a new order application, which is going to, produce new orders. And the consumer app is going to act like our order processor. So we can have more than one instance of the consumer app or the order processor. And each instance of this application is going to, take one order and process that order. So first off, we are going to write the producer application, and then we're going to talk about what the code is doing. Inside of Visual Studio, so again, I have RabbitMQ running here as well. So inside of Visual Studio, I am on branch number 3, as you can see here. I've got, the consumer app, the producer app, both of them are empty. I have removed the code from the previous episode. Now I want to write the code for the producer application and then talk about it. So again, basically, we need to create our connection factory. Then we create the, connection and the channel as before. And then we are going to call queueDeclareAsync. The queue name is task queue. It is durable, exclusive false, auto delete false. And then we are going to simulate creating an order, a time consuming order. And then we're going to get the body using the encoding. We're going to create a basic properties object. We're going to, set persistent to true. This ensures that the message is saved to disk. And then we are going to call basic publish async using the routing key, task queue. Mandatory is true. Basic properties is going to use that properties object and then the body. And then this is the get message, method that we are going to use. So basically using get message, we are taking the details of an order from command lines. So this is, the application that is going to, act as the producer or the application that is going to create some orders, and then multiple instances of the consumer application are gonna run in order to handle each each one of these messages. So let's now write the code for the consumer application. So now for the consumer application, I am going to write the code as well. Again, I'm going to create the connection factory, and I'm going to create my connection as well as my channel. And then the queue, task queue, durable is true, exclusive, it is false, auto delete false, and then arguments is null. Basic QoS async, I'm going to talk about that. And then I create the consumer using async eventing basic consumer. And as you can see, I am handling the received async method. And then I am getting the body. I am converting it back to a string, and I am printing the body to the screen. And then I am simulating a delay because I am going to process the order. Based on the number of periods, I am going to make a delay. And then I am going to print that the processing has been done. So basic async, basic acknowledgement is gonna acknowledge the processing of the message, and then we are going to call basic consume async. So the things that are different here, let's talk about them a little bit. So basically, we have created the queue as a durable queue. We have set the exclusive to false, auto delete to false, and arguments is as before set to false. When you create a queue as a durable queue, it means that the messages are gonna get marked as durable, and that means that whenever the RabbitMQ restarts, they are going to survive. So they're not gonna they're not gonna discard it. They're not gonna get discarded whenever RabbitMQ server restarts. And then you are doing basic acknowledgement. So if you go to the consumer application, if you take a look here, we are acknowledging to the RabbitMQ server that the application has successfully processed that specific message. And then here we are simulating a delay based on the number of periods that exist in the name of the order. And then of course we are using the consumer here using the basic consume async, as well as this basic QoS async. So using this basic QoS async, prefetch size and prefetch count and global, we are implementing something called fair dispatch. And in very simple terms, fair dispatch means that using this basic QoS with, for example, prefetch count number 1, RabbitMQ won't send more than one unacknowledged order to a processor. And this prevents that instance of your consumer or processor to become overloaded with more than one instance with more messages that it can handle. Now let's talk about how we want to run these applications. So again, we are going to have more than one command prompt, and then we are going to run more than one instance of the consumer application. So we are going to, for example, have 2 instances of the consumer, and then we are going to have one instance of the producer, or multiple instances of the producer, should I say, with different orders. So these are the orders that the producer application is going to produce. And whenever an order has more than one period in the name, it means that it will take more time for the processor to process this order. If you remember, in our code, we are creating a delay based on the number of periods. inside of the message body, right? So for example, this specific message is going to take more time than this one, right? And then you will see that with having multiple instances of our consumers, of our consumer, those messages are going to get distributed to those instances, and each instance is going to get, you know, one message, and is going to go through processing that message. So let me copy this. I'm going to copy this, and then I am going to go to my, you know, consumer app, and I am going to run it. .NET run. This is one instance of the consumer application. Okay, there's something wrong here. Let me pause the video and fix this issue. I guess the issue is in this instance. Let me see if I can run this one, because this one was running. So right now it says waiting for orders, and I am running another instance of this. Now the producer. So I have copied that code from my notes file. I am going to paste it here so that I can run multiple instances of my producer, right, with orders. And you will see that, for example, this instance, for this instance of the consumer got this message, custom mic. The next one, large furniture. What about this one? Standard mic, engraved trophy. So two instances of the consumer, each receiving different messages that were produced by the same producer. What about the last one? Last one is gift set. Yes, this instance got this, you know, message. So this is the work queue, right? Example inside of RabbitMQ with C#. I hope you've enjoyed watching this video, and if that's the case, don't forget to give it a thumbs up. I'll see you in the next one.